A spirit was caught on camera in this African graveyard. The footage shook in the cameraman's trembling hands as the white figure drifted between the graves. Nobody was supposed to be in Kizi Cemetery at midnight. Nobody living, at least. The strange mist that surrounded the figure seemed to glow with its own light, illuminating the weathered headstones around it. Then, as if sensing it was being watched, the figure turned toward the camera. The footage blurred, distorted, and then went completely black. What you're about to hear is the story behind that video, the most famous ghost sighting in East Africa. But what the world doesn't know is what happened to the people who recorded it, and why some say that anyone who watches the full, unedited footage is marked for a visit from the spirit themselves. I know, because I was there that night, and I have been running ever since. My name is Kwame. I was studying journalism at Makar University in Uganda when it all began. My friends and I were working on a documentary about local superstitions for our final project. It was meant to be critical, to show how traditional beliefs held back progress in rural communities. We were young, educated, and arrogant. There were 4 of us: me, Daniel, Esther, and Jabari. We had been friends since our first year, bound together by ambition and a shared belief that we could change how the world saw Africa. It was Esther who first mentioned Kizi Cemetery. My grandmother says it's the most haunted place in the country, she told us one evening as we brainstormed locations. People claim to see spirits wandering among the graves, especially during the full moon. Daniel laughed. Perfect! We can debunk those stories and show how easy it is to mistake ordinary things for ghosts. My cousin lives near there, Jabari added. He says there's a particular grave that's always surrounded by mist, even on hot days. Kay, an old medicine man named Bakari, was buried there 60 years ago. Supposedly, he was buried with his spiritual tools, because his family was afraid he would use them after death, if they were separated from him. I remember how we all laughed at this idea. How foolish people were, we thought, to believe such things in the modern world. We should go during the next full moon, I suggested. Set up cameras overnight and see what these spirits really are. It wasn't just about the documentary anymore. It had become a dare way to prove our intellectual superiority over the superstitious villagers. The full moon was only 3 days away. We gathered our equipment, borrowed a car from Daniel's brother, and headed toward Kizi. A small village about 4 hours from the capital. We arrived in Kizi just before sunset. The village was smaller than I expected. Just a handful of mud brick houses with metal roofs clustered around a dusty central area. We planned to interview some locals about the cemetery legends before heading there at night. The first few people we approached hurried away when they heard what we wanted. Finally, an elderly woman agreed to speak with us. She sat outside her home, weaving a basket, her fingers working with practiced precision despite her age. "Do you want to know about the cemetery?" she asked, not looking up from her work. "We're making a documentary about local beliefs," Esther explained. "We want to understand the stories about spirits in the graveyard." The old woman's hand stilled. "Understanding is good. Disrespect is dangerous." "We don't mean any disrespect," I assured her, though in truth, that was exactly what we intended, to disrespect beliefs we considered primitive. "The cemetery holds more than bodies," she said, her voice dropping so low we had to lean forward to hear her. "It holds memories, promises, and power. Crees, especially around Bakari's grave." "The medicine man?" Jabari asked. She nodded. "He was not just any healer. He could speak to the world beyond ours. When he died, the boundary between worlds grew thin in that place." Daniel had started filming, capturing her weathered face and intense eyes. "What happens to people who go there at night?" Esther asked. The old woman looked directly into the camera, and I felt a chill despite the warm evening air. "Those who go with respect may see things, but they return. Those who go to mock or challenge," she shook her head, "the spirits show them things they are not prepared to see. Truths they cannot bear. Has anyone ever recorded these spirits? I asked. One man tried, many years ago. A scientist from the city, like you. She resumed her weaving. He came to the village a week later, a changed man. He burned his camera and all his equipment. He never spoke of what he saw, but he built a house here and lived the rest of his life leaving offerings at Bakari's grave every full moon. As we left her house, Jabari looked troubled. Maybe we should reconsider. Don't tell me you believe that, Daniel scoffed. She's just repeating stories she's heard. My family is from a village like this, Jabari said quietly. Not all knowledge comes from universities. But we were too committed to our plan. We'd driven for hours and spent much of our budget on equipment. We couldn't turn back because of an old woman's warning. As dusk fell, we headed toward the cemetery on the outskirts of the village, ignoring the worried looks of the locals who watched us pass. Kizi Cemetery wasn't like the neat, organized graveyards I'd seen in the city. No tidy rows of headstones or maintained paths. It sprawled across a hillside, ancient baobab trees standing like sentinels among graves of different ages and styles. Some were marked with simple wooden crosses, others with elaborate stone structures. Many were decorated with personal items, clay pots, wooden carvings, faded photographs. According to my research, Bakari's grave is on the far side, near the large acacia tree, Esther said, consulting her notes. We trudged through tall grass as darkness fell. The air grew noticeably cooler as we entered the cemetery grounds, despite the lingering heat of the day. Crickets and night birds called, creating a constant backdrop of sound. Jabari set up audio equipment at different points, while Daniel prepared several cameras, some fixed on tripods, others equipped with motion sensors. I helped Esther identify the graves mentioned in her research. When we found Bakari's grave, it was unmistakable. Khan. Unlike the others, it was surrounded by a circle of smooth white stones. The headstone was carved with symbols none of us recognized, and various objects had been placed around it, small bundles of herbs, coins, carved recent offerings, Esther noted, pointing to fresh flowers and a small calabash that probably contained traditional beer. People still worship this guy, Daniel asked, positioning a camera directly facing the grave. Not worship, Jabari corrected. They honor his spirit and ask for his help. Same difference, Daniel muttered. We finished setting up our equipment as the moon rose full and bright, casting silver light across the cemetery. We retreated to our car, parked about 50 meters away, where we could monitor the live feeds from our cameras on laptops. For the first few hours, nothing happened. The night grew colder. Esther dozed off, while Jabari kept adjusting his audio equipment, frowning at unexpected interference. Probably just the wind, I told him, though there was barely a breeze. It was just after midnight when Daniel suddenly sat up straight. There's something on camera 3, he said. We crowded around his laptop. Camera 3 was positioned near Bakari's grave. The footage showed a faint mist forming above the ground, not unusual in itself, but this mist seemed to be gathering into a shape. It's just fog, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Fog doesn't move like that, Jabari whispered. We watched, transfixed, as the mist coalesced into a vaguely human figure, tall and thin, moving with deliberate steps between the graves. This is amazing, Daniel said, grabbing his handheld camera. I'm going to get closer footage? Are you crazy? Esther had woken up and was staring at the screen. We should stay in the car. This could make our documentary famous, Daniel argued. It's probably just someone from the village trying to scare us. Before we could stop him, he was out of the car, night vision camera in hand. We watched him on the laptop screen as he crept toward Bakari's grave, where the misty figure was now standing completely still. I'm going after him, I decided, reaching for the door. Jabari caught my arm. Look, he said, pointing at the screen. The figure had turned toward Daniel. Even through the night vision camera, we could see that the mist had formed into something with a distinct head and shoulders. What we couldn't see was a face, just darkness where features should be. Daniel's camera jerked as he stopped moving. He had spotted the figure. The audio picked up his nervous breathing. "Hello!" he called out. "We're students making a documentary. We don't mean any disrespect." The figure remained still. Then, slowly, it raised what appeared to be an arm, pointing directly at Daniel. The camera shook violently. Static filled the screen, and Daniel's breathing turned to gasping. "We need to help him," I said, pulling away from Jabari and rushing out of the car. The cemetery looked different now, the moonlight harsher, the shadows deeper. I could see Daniel standing frozen near Bakari's grave, but the misty figure was nowhere in sight. "Daniel?" I called, running toward him. He didn't respond. As I reached him, I saw that he was staring straight ahead, the camera hanging forgotten at his side. His eyes were wide with terror. "What happened? What did you see?" I asked, shaking his shoulder. Slowly, he turned to look at me, but his eyes seemed to focus on something beyond me. "It showed me," he whispered. "Showed you what?" "Everything." A tear slid down his cheek. Everything I'd been running from. I heard Esther and Jabari approaching behind me. Together, we managed to guide Daniel back to the car. He moved like a sleepwalker, unresisting but unresponsive. When we checked the footage later, the last 30 seconds showed only static, followed by a clear image of Daniel's terrified face, reflected in what looked like a mirror. There had been no mirror in the cemetery. We left Kizi before dawn, cutting our research trip short. Daniel didn't speak during the entire drive back to the university. When we dropped him at his apartment, he simply said, "Delete the footage." All of it? Of course we didn't. This was potentially groundbreaking material, actual paranormal activity captured on film. We spent the next week analyzing every frame, enhancing the images, cleaning up the audio. The strange thing was, each of us saw something different in the footage. I saw the misty figure transforming into a woman I recognized, a girl from my village who had drowned when I was a child. An accident I had witnessed but done nothing to prevent. Esther saw her father, who had abandoned her family when she was young. Jabari refused to tell us what he saw, but he stopped coming to our editing sessions after the third day. And Daniel wouldn't even look at the footage. He dropped out of the university the following week. The last time I saw him, he was boarding a bus back to his home village. "Some things aren't meant to be known," he told me. "Some powers aren't meant to be challenged." We completed the documentary without him, though we edited out the most disturbing parts of the cemetery footage. Our project received the highest grade in the class and was selected for a national student film festival. The night before the festival, I had a dream. I was standing in Kizi Cemetery, though I'd never returned after that night. Bakari stood before me not as a misty shape, but as a solid figure, an elderly man with eyes that contained galaxies. "You took something that wasn't yours," he said. "Knowledge has a price." I woke with a start. My laptop, which contained our only copy of the full, unedited footage, was open on my desk, though I was certain I had closed it before sleeping. The video file was playing, showing the cemetery under moonlight. As I watched, frozen with fear, the footage began to change. No longer showing the cemetery from 6 months ago, but my room, in real. The camera seemed to be panning slowly from the doorway toward my bed, where I sat staring at the screen. Something was in my room, watching me. I slammed the laptop shut, packed a bag, and left my apartment before dawn. I withdrew from the university that day and didn't attend the film festival. Our documentary won the festival's top prize. Within weeks, it had been viewed online thousands of times. Comments poured in, many from viewers claiming they had seen strange mist in their homes after watching, or had dreams of being in a cemetery with an old medicine man. Esther called me a month later, her voice shaking. "It's following me," she said. The figure from the cemetery. "I see it standing outside my window at night." Jabari had already returned to his family's village, I learned. He had taken up an apprenticeship with the local healer. And Daniel, no one had heard from Daniel. Disturbing reports began to emerge from people who had watched our documentary. A student in Nairobi claimed his roommate had become catatonic after watching it alone late at night. A film critic in Lagos wrote that she had discovered strange symbols drawn on her bathroom mirror after reviewing the documentary. I tried to warn people. I posted on every forum where the documentary was shared. Do not watch this alone. Do not watch it at night. And never try to record or photograph anything unusual you see afterward. Few heeded my warnings. The documentary had gone viral, its popularity fueled by rumors of its supernatural effects. People wanted to be scared. They didn't understand that. Some fears are based in truth. 3 years have passed since that night in Kizi Cemetery. I now live in a small coastal village, far from universities and documentary films. I fish for a living and avoid cameras and computers, but I cannot escape what we awaken. Last full moon, I returned home from fishing to find a package outside my door. Small box wrapped in cloth, decorated with the same symbols that had been on Bakari's headstone. Inside was a carved wooden figure and a note written in a shaky hand. It found me. This will keep you safe, but you must return to make it right. The note was signed by Daniel. That night, I saw a mist gathering outside my window for the first time in years. It didn't try to enter, but formed into a familiar, shapen old man who pointed first at me, then toward the west, toward Kizi. I understand now what we did wrong. We didn't just record a spirit, we captured it, bound it to our footage, and then spread it across the world. We treated sacred knowledge as entertainment. We turned someone's guardian into a spectacle. Tomorrow, I leave for Kizi. Esther and Jabari will meet me there. We've managed to contact Daniel, who is already waiting at the village. We will bring offerings to Bakari's grave under the full moon. We will ask forgiveness and release what we bound. I record this story as both warning and confession. Some boundaries should not be crossed. Some knowledge demands respect rather than exploitation. The spirits of our ancestors are not attractions to be filmed and shared online. They are powerful forces that maintain the balance between worlds. If you've seen our documentary, if you've felt a presence watching you afterward, or dreamed of mist forming into shapes that show you your deepest fears and regrets, I can only offer this advice. Acknowledge what you see. Show respect. And never try to capture it. Because some things, once caught on camera, never truly leave the frame. And some spirits, once called, will follow you to the ends of the earth. Until balance is restored, the footage that began this story, the shaking camera, the white figure turning toward the lens has been viewed millions of times, but no one has ever seen what happened next. What was recorded before the screen went black? No one except those of us who were there that night. And if you're wondering what was on those missing 30 seconds of footage, be grateful for your ignorance. Be grateful you don't know what Daniel saw. What changed him forever? Because knowledge, like power, comes with a price. And some prices are too high to pay. If you're ever near Kizi Cemetery during a full moon and see mist gathering among the graves, don't run, don't hide, and definitely don't try to record it. Simply bow your head in respect and say, I acknowledge you, but I honor your power. Then walk away and don't look back. Not even once. Because the spirits caught on camera that night are still watching, and they remember every face that has ever watched them in return.